Hey everybody, so I've talked about the major signings in their own videos throughout this offseason so far. Obviously Karlsson, Jeff Skinner, Kevin Hayes. But there have been many other signings too of not as high profile players, maybe depth guys or just players without that kind of name recognition. So I want to go through, rather than giving each of these contracts their own video, I'm just going to go through and talk about some of the more under the radar signings that have taken place so far up to this point. So let's just get started. Roman Polak re-signs on a 1-year deal with Dallas, $1.75 million per year. Well, it's only 1 year, so $1.75 million. Again, depth defenseman, physical guy, brings some toughness to that back end. I think that's a pretty solid deal for the Stars and Polak. Stars also signed Matthias Janmark to a 1-year deal worth $2.3 million. So Janmark's a middle of the lineup guy, and obviously not a big contract, but keeps him around in Dallas for another year. So I think those are both pretty solid depth deals for the Dallas Stars. Jordan Eberle, my favorite contract that has been signed so far this offseason. The Islanders keep Jordan Eberle on a 5-year deal at only $5.5 million per year, which I think is an absolutely great deal for the Islanders, an A-plus contract. The Eberle is a very, very good player and, can be a guy who can score, easily score 30-plus goals in a season. And they got him at $5.5 million against the cap, whereas Buffalo paid Jeff Skinner $9 million against the cap. That's just an absolutely huge win, I think, for the New York Islanders, and it's a 5-year deal, so Eberle stays in New York long term and on a very team-friendly cap contract. Carl Hagelin has re-signed with the Washington Capitals, a 4-year deal, which is definitely longer than I thought Hagelin would get at this stage of his career, but under $3 million at $2.75 million per year. So Washington keeps a solid third-line center, a speed guy, a very good penalty killer at under $3 million per year. I think that's a good deal for them. And Hagelin fit in nicely once he was traded to Washington, so I think that's a good deal. And he'll probably have a decent role on that team for the next few years. Anthony Duclair has signed with Ottawa, staying with the Senators on a 1-year deal at $1.65 million. Again, Ottawa needs players. Duclair never turned into the player that a lot of people thought he would when he was drafted, but he's a body. He has some offensive skill. Ottawa needs anything they can get at this point, so obviously a good deal there. Braden Coburn re-signs with the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 years at $1.7 million per year. And Tampa Bay is in big-time cap trouble. They're likely to lose Anton Strawman and Dan Girardi off that back end. So they kept Coburn on a very cheap deal, under $2 million per year. Much like Roman Polak, Braden Coburn is a veteran guy, defensive defenseman, kind of just brings some veteran stabilization to that back end and a little bit of toughness with it. He's a pretty big physical player. Tampa's in big time trouble salary cap wise. They have issues. They're going to have issues keeping that team together. So they can't lose everybody off that back end. So Coburn's a guy who can come in. He can be a bottom pair guy. He can be your 7th defenseman if you need him to. And a fairly cheap deal. I would have liked to have maybe seen him maybe a little less on the money, maybe like $1.25 million per year, something like that, 1.5 maybe. 1.7 seems a little high, especially if he's not going to be playing in the lineup every night. But if they lose Strawman and Girardi, he'll probably be in the lineup every night. And at that point, I guess $1.7 million for a third pair defenseman isn't a bad deal. Tampa's just got a lot of issues with their money, though. They are right up against the cap, and that's going to be a problem for them. And lastly, today, Alex Edler signs a 2-year deal with the Vancouver Canucks at $6 million per year. So Edler is staying in Vancouver where he's been forever. No surprise there. That deal also includes a full no movement clause, so Edler is staying in Vancouver, and that's not a surprise. Alex Edler will likely be a career Vancouver Canuck. Now, he's certainly not the player he was, 7-8 years ago, but he's still a solid veteran defenseman. He's been there a long time. He's an important player in that locker room and to that franchise, and I just think that there's no surprise there that he's staying. $6 million a year does seem a little high maybe for what he brings to the table at this point in his career, but Vancouver has the money to do it. It's a short-term deal, only 2 years. So again, I think this was just about keeping Edler in Vancouver. So those are the deals so far. I think most of them are pretty good. Again, it's the big contracts getting tossed out that I'm really not happy with looking at it from how this is going to affect the team long-term standpoint. These smaller deals that we're seeing, I think, have been solid depth deals, and it's important for teams to keep players like that around, and they're obviously really important parts of the team. So that's who's been signed up to this point. Obviously, there'll be more and more coming in as this re-sign phase continues. And then July 1, we open up unrestricted free agency. So that will be a whole lot of fun. But that's that. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.